2 days ago, I posted a video in which I recommended people subscribe to the YouTube channel December 24th and watch his videos. And I still definitely believe that you should do both. Yesterday, December 24th, posted a video which suggested that he might have to go into hiding. I don't want to go into too much detail about it right here. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to. But it was a rather disturbing, if not alarming, video that he recorded, in which he more or less suggested that, or said that he was getting threats from some of these people, and that he may have to take evasive action of some kind or other. All of this just brings into my mind and I was wanting to record a video on this subject, and I think I've touched on this subject many times before. But I don't think I've ever phrased it in exactly this way. But I remember recording a video some 3 months ago, maybe, where the title is something like, "When you discover that the world is ruled by evil," what that's like, and how obviously sobering that is. It goes without saying that would be sobering for someone who's not evil. If you yourself are evil, then, or if you don't care, which would be tantamount to being evil. If you don't care about evil ruling the world, then it wouldn't strike you that way. But if you're an ordinary person who wants to see good prevail over evil, even if you're flawed, even if you're, don't have everything together yourself, you're still, generally speaking, someone who wills the good, who would will good prevail over evil, then it's very sobering indeed to realize that evil runs the show. Not in every way, not totally. And when it comes to, from the supernatural perspective, definitely not totally. But when it comes to a secular or worldly perspective, when it comes to matters of the world and the principalities and powers. And of course, there's that famous passage from one of the epistles. I can't remember which one it is, but where the writer says that we fight against principalities and powers, thrones and dominions. And that pretty well states it. I mean, if principalities, powers, thrones, and dominions are ultimately evil at the top, even if not everyone who works for them is evil, even if not every king is evil, even if not every representative or congressman or president or prime minister or other representative is evil, still those at the top, those who really run the show, are evil. That's a sobering thing. And I think that, I hate to use the word normie. I hate jargon. I hate words like normie, which, by which you put yourself at a distance from others, by which you there's something dismissive about that term, the way that it's usually used. Of course, sheeple is even worse when people talk about the sheeple. I understand that people can be like sheep, and I understand the frustration, but there's something very there's a condescension and a contempt in using words like that I think must be avoided just because, well, it's easy to trick yourself into thinking that you are, to thinking like the rulers of this world do, like the principalities, powers, thrones, and dominions tend to think of themselves. It's easy to put yourself into a position where, you are sentient, but these others, they're just, they don't matter, because they're just normies. They're just sheeple. They just follow the herd. They don't, the fact is, we're all on a journey, and it takes different, people wake up in different ways at different times, and we have to understand that, and we have to bear with that, and so forth. But I do think that if there's one thing that separates the awakened, the people who are truly awakened in this way from the so-called normies, it's understanding that a case like this guy, I still don't know his actual name. I'll just refer to him as December 24th because that's the name of his YouTube channel. But I don't know why he calls himself that. But anyway, I think the normie type would hear, December 24th say what he says in his last, and hopefully not his final video, but the last video that he's recorded. They would hear him say these things, that I'm getting threats, and I fear for my safety, and I'm going to have to take some steps here to attempt to ensure my safety, and so forth. And if you don't hear back from me again, then you'll know what happened to me. He actually said that. I think the typical normie would hear that and think this is just absurd. This person is paranoid. This person, must be deluded. He must have these delusions of persecution. Maybe he's schizophrenic. I mean, these are the first things. These are the go-tos that the normie type would have. And I think that most, the good-hearted normies would suspect these things without casting aspersions upon him, without saying mean things about him, without insulting him, but they would still think that. That would be the first thing they would think, because the whole idea that this guy who, as a young man, was kidnapped and taken and made to be a part of this inhuman regime, this torture school, this network of basically prisons and work work exploitation of minors, and there's so much evidence of this entire network. I mean, again, go enter hashtag breaking code silence and look it up for yourself. Again, look at Paris Hilton. Watch her documentary, This Is Paris. Not all of it is about this particular subject, but if you want to look at somebody who is a normie herself, who's like a celebrity among the normies, somebody who you would not suspect of having this kind of insight and knowledge of the dark recesses of what's going on within the corridors of power. But does, because she was sent to be a part of these kinds of programs and was subjected to the same kinds of torment. And so many others were and have been. And this is just one branch of this infernal tree of child exploitation. And it relates to Pedogate, although it's not, I don't think these places were exclusively for sexual exploitation of vulnerable young people, underage people, teenagers, and some even younger. But I do think it's associated with, it's a part and parcel of all of this. I think once you see that this stuff goes on, which is again what happened to me. It happened to me 6 years ago. I date my awakening to, 7 years ago now. Almost 7 years ago exactly. It was right around the springtime, March or April of 2014. It was right around that time that I first became aware from studying the Franklin scandal. And the Franklin scandal is just one of many cases like that. Cases that, believe me, you don't want them to be real. I didn't want it to be real, but found that I could not convince myself that it was a scam, no matter how hard I tried, and I really tried. I really wanted it not to be real. That's what I think it, I'd like to impress upon those out there who might still be skeptical about these kinds of things. I didn't want it to be real. It wasn't, who wants something like that to be real? And again, I've said all this before. I don't mean to belabor it. I don't mean to, dwell on my own reaction to everything, because, ultimately my own response is just one man's response. But I can say that it thoroughly knocked me for a loop. It really had me down and out. I described it in my interview with Jason Horsley. I described it as a kind of PTSD, which made him wonder if I had some trauma myself. And he asked me that, and I understand why he asked me that. But the truth is, I don't recall ever having been sexually exploited as a child myself. I don't recall it. It's not a sore spot for me. I don't have any memories or repressed memories. I guess if they were repressed, then I wouldn't know that I had them, right? But I think even with repressed memories, which I think are real. At one time in my life, I was a part of this whole, satanic panic, false memory syndrome kind of perspective on a lot of these things. But I do think that it makes perfect sense that you might bury or block a really traumatizing memory. I have no memories of anything like that happening to me, and I don't believe anything like that happened to me. Nevertheless, there was something just about having my face just ground into this fact that not only were these kinds of things happening, they were happening on the very, very highest of levels among the very, very powerful people. This was being done and the authorities were more often covering for the powerful at the expense of the victimized, when, what we think that they're there to do is to protect the victimized against their exploiters. So all of this is to say, and just to connect this back to December 24th in his latest video, all of this is to say that I think you endure this kind of experience or you don't. You come to this kind of realization or you don't, or maybe you haven't. You either hold these things at bay or deny them, which again, I could not do. I wanted to, but I could not do it. But maybe some people have, stronger, a greater capacity to compartmentalize than I did, and can just set it aside and then not think about it, and that's how they deal with it. Or maybe they're just not aware of it, or they hear about it and they just think it's crazy. They just think it's like it's like crazy kooky tinfoil hat turning the frogs gay kind of stuff. I wish it were, I really wish. Not that, maybe the frogs are turning gay. I just was using that as an example of something that generally is thought of as kooky. That just use whatever other example you want to, if it works better for you than that one. I do think Alex Jones is he's an entertainer, and he I believe puts on an act. I don't know what he believes and what he doesn't believe, but he certainly comes across as a nut job, and that doesn't help. Okay, whether he's intending, whether this is part of his persona, whether it's a persona that he's adopting, or whether it's really him, in either case, it doesn't help to come across that way. So that's why I brought up the turning the frogs gay thing. So there are people like that who can just say, oh, child exploitation, that's just, of course it happens, but it's not, it's not some organized thing. It's not, all these people who talk about Pizzagate, they're just crazy, nutty, people. But again, if I've thought before of coming up with a list of things. I could come up with a list of things, a list of events or people. I'm not remembering. I'm drawing blanks right now, but I'm remembering. I could give you names, and I don't know any of these people personally, but I could give you names of people. I could give you names of events or scandals, like the Franklin scandal, like the Dutroux affair, or Casa Pia affair, or the Presidio child abuse case, and I could go on and on. Annika Lucas, I'm tempted to become just try to become this encyclopedic, look up this, look up that, and of course, if you look up these names, probably the first thing that'll come up is some Wikipedia story about how this person is crazy or whatever, or how these events didn't really occur or whatever. We know there's a concerted effort to cover these things up. I mean, I remember, of course, on YouTube, I remember coming to this discovery when I remembered that when President Bush the Elder gave a speech on September 11th, 1990, about the New World Order, where he mentioned the New World Order by name in those very words. This is our effort to bring about a new world order. Those were words that he used in a speech to the country, right? But you type in, do this now. I type in George Bush New World Order speech 1990, and it's not there. It's not there. They've messed with the algorithm, so this speech doesn't come up. But you can still find it, but you really have to look for it. That's what they do. That's what they've done. If there was nothing to hide, why would they make such an effort to hide it? If this was no big deal that he said these words, then they shouldn't mess with the algorithm. They should let people see that he did indeed say these words, and then tell us how we should interpret the fact that he used the phrase New World Order, right? But instead, they make it so that you can't see it, right? This is how they operate. This is how people with something to hide operate. And the ones who have something to hide are the ones who are running everything. So, I say this all in the context of December 24th's last post, not last post, hopefully, because I want to hear from him again, and I believe we will hear from him again. But the post that his latest post, and what was contained in it, and it just brought to mind for me again this sobering realization that the main difference between those who are aware of this kind of evil and those who aren't, the stark difference that exists. I think I was a different person after I came out the other side of that dark tunnel of truth. And those who have never been thrust into that dark tunnel of truth, whether they've avoided it, whether it's any fault of their own, I'm not going to call them sheeple. I'm not going to say that they're intentionally deluding themselves. Most of them are probably fine, upstanding people. They just don't think about those kinds of things. Those kinds of things just don't occur to them. And bless them. If we can keep, there's a line in Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, where Marlowe, the main character, is talking about women, and of course this would be taken as offensive and sexist now, but it wasn't meant that way by Marlowe, or he didn't mean it. He meant it in a way that was positive. He said something like, we must keep women away from this sort of darkness, so that we can still have them to look upon, as beacons of innocence. Okay, in a way, maybe you could say he was being simpy and about women. There's a lot you could say about it, but I'm just asking that you look at it, in the way that it was intended, literarily speaking. And you don't even have to approve of it. Just forget that it was about women. It's good that there are people who are fresh-faced and innocent, and don't have exposure to this kind of stuff. Let them play. Let children be innocent. Let them be blissfully unaware of all these things. I was mostly blissfully unaware, and I'm glad I was for my childhood. Unfortunately, many childhoods are marred by precisely these kinds of awful things, and that must really warp a person's perspective. That must really I talk about going through the dark tunnel of truth, and I didn't endure anything. I was never abused, unless I've repressed it, which I don't think I have, because I think if I repressed it, there would be some tell somewhere that it had happened somewhere. So I understood why Jason asked me that question, but I don't think it applies in my case. But that's to be through the dark tunnel where you're one of the exploited ones, and you come to see that there's nobody to rescue you, that the people who you thought were going to come to your aid are all compromised, are all on the side of your exploiter, your abuser. That's got to be beyond sobering. That's got to be like, that's got to be nihilism inducing in some ways. That's got to be something that really makes you think that, that's got to be hard to come back from. Only divine intervention could help a person come back from that. So, I do pray for December 24th, not only for his safety, but for his sanity, and for a restoration of his faith, whatever faith. I don't necessarily mean religious faith, but faith in faith that life is worth living, that he can come back from that. So anyone who's inclined also to pray for December 24th, please do so. And I think that's how I'm going to wrap up this somewhat lengthy video. Thank you for watching to the very end, and I'll talk to y'all soon.